Welcome to the Radical Success Podcast, where we focus on internal transformation to experience external results. I'm your host and coach, Doreen Rainey. Join me each week for insightful messages and powerful interviews to equip you to take bold, courageous, and radical action to live the life you want and deserve. Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Radical Success Podcast. I am Doreen Rainey, your Radical Success Coach, and I'm so excited to be back sharing with you concepts and insights and strategies that help us focus on the fact that an internal transformation is what produces external results. And as we are into the final month of 2018, I hope that you are reflecting on what you have accomplished during this year. I hope you are in gratitude and thankful for all of the blessings and wins that you've had. And I also hope that you are reflective and thoughtful about the things that maybe didn't quite go your way, but there were some lessons in there. There were some things to learn that you can carry forward that will not only help you do things differently or better in the future, but will also position you to really take charge and move forward with those goals and dreams that you have for your life. So today's episode, I am talking about the fact that it is D-Day. It's D-Day. Dun, dun, dun. And I'm going to be sharing with you exactly what that means and what will be required of you if you too are declaring this your D-Day. Now, before I share all of this great information with you about D-Day, I want to take a few moments and do a little plug here for the Radical Success Inner Circle. Oh, my goodness, when I launched this a couple of months ago, I had no idea how needed this was for those of you who really are looking for consistent motivation, consistent training, consistent education, consistent inspiration, but in a way that's accessible on your own time and on your own schedule. And the Inner Circle is really our membership platform that gives you immediate access to over 35 hours of teachings, trainings, expert interviews that I've done as a part of this radical mission over the last 10 years. And each month there is brand new training and content added, as well as a Q&A call that's live with me so that you can get your questions answered on how you can move forward in the areas of life that you are setting goals around. Now, new this month in the Inner Circle is a teaching that I call Maximize Now. And if you have been a part of this tribe for any amount of time, if you've been tuning in to this podcast over the last several months, if you've attended my Radical Intensive, then you know that if it's one thing I'm big on, it's goals. I'm big on discovering your goals, setting goals, striving for your goals, and achieving your goals. As part of my radical method, as part of my masterminds and coaching practice, I teach my clients how to set authentic goals, how to stay in action, and how to stay focused. But I also know that there is a dark side to goals. I call it the trap. And if you aren't careful, you'll fall prey to this trap and not even realize it. And I am speaking from experience that there is a flip side to this goal thing. And if you fall prey to this trap, consciously or unconsciously, you will find yourself stuck and stalled and really trying to answer the question of why haven't I made progress? And so inside of the Inner Circle this month, this training is all about what that trap is and how to get out of it if you find yourself there. And so if you're already a member of the Inner Circle, all you have to do is jump on over to DoreenRainey.com, hit Inner Circle and log in. If you are not a current member of the Inner Circle, what are you waiting for? You get the same instructions. Jump on over to DoreenRainey.com, click that Inner Circle membership button and get all the details about how you can get immediate access to our Radical Library as well as the new teachings. And now let's jump into today's topic, which is D-Day. I want to invite you to make this day and every day a D-Day. Now, my ego would say that the D stands for Doreen, but it does not. D-Day actually stands for do. D-O. So it is D-Day. And my question for you is, are you in or are you out? And if you are in, that means that you are making the decision to stop thinking, to stop analyzing, to stop pondering, hoping, studying, and to actually start doing. I believe that one of the biggest gaps that we have from looking at what we want and what we actually have is in our ability to do. And because this podcast is really about the internal drivers, the things that go on inside of our mind that stop us from taking action, I really want to put a little bit of a twist on the word do and not just look at it from a literal perspective, a tangible perspective of going out and making a phone call, connecting with someone, going to the gym, opening a savings account, like those literal do's. I also want to examine this from more of the mindset. And when I talk to people about what they want to achieve, what some of their goals are, and we move into the conversation of why they haven't achieved it yet, I want to share with you a couple of the reasons that I get. And I want you to, of course, examine whether these reasons resonate with you. So one of the first reasons why people don't do is that as they're telling me about their goals, I realize how big it is. How many of you have a big vision? You have a big goal. And as much as you are excited about it, as much as you talk about it, as much as you might reference it on your vision board, the truth is goals that are too big are overwhelming. And it's not until we're willing to break it down to not just its most common denominators, but break it down to those very first initial steps. Until we're willing to do that, it's going to be very hard for us to do because we really don't even know where to start. And I remember I had a client a couple of years ago, and she was working on a very big goal. She had a passion, a mission, a desire to help women really understand how gratitude plays a role in their life and to really own their power. And by owning their power, they can go out and do amazing things inside of that gratitude and that power. And she talked to me about this community and these products and these services and the books and the media and everything she saw this thing being for her. And I remember asking her one day, that sounds amazing, but can you please set up your email system? Right? Sometimes we get so caught up in the big vision, we forget that there are some very basic things we need to do to even get started. Right? I understand. I understand that you want to build wealth. I understand that you want to get into real estate and you want to buy properties and you want to have 50 doors, 100 doors, 500 doors. That's fantastic. That's amazing. But can you pull your credit report? Can you look at where you're going to get the resources to buy that initial first door or property? Are you going to first do the research around managing tenants, the laws in your state, how you're going to take care of maintenance if you're renting these doors or these real estate holdings out? And so maybe some of the reasons that you haven't moved into D-Day is because your goal is too big. And I invite you to break it down. The second reason why people don't do is that they have failed before. And my gosh, as bad as they want to try it again, they are just simply too afraid. And so because of that, they hesitate to get back in the game, to do it again, to try again. And it sounds cliche, but failure is part of the process. Failure is what every person experiences on their way to living out their vision. Failure is what every person has to manage and deal with on their way to starting that business, writing that book, having a great relationship, repairing relationships, getting fit, getting healthy. It's part of the process. And so if you've been someone who, man, you've just tried and you've tried and you've tried and you tried, but it still is a burning desire for you. You know it's part of your path, your purpose. It's something that you know you have to experience successfully inside of this lifetime, then you have got to try again. And you begin that next try with just doing the very next step you can take. And so if you have failed before in a particular goal and you're ready to get back in the game, ready to get back on track, even though you're afraid that you might fail again, what is that one thing that you can do to get back on track? Another reason why people don't do is that they say they don't have time, that life is just happening and between their career or their business or family or finances or resources or volunteer and church activities, like they just don't have time. And so instead of doing, they find themselves thinking, hoping, pondering, praying that one day it's all going to come together. Well, that one day doesn't come together until you decide to do something to make it come together. And what's most interesting to me is that these are the goals that you said were a priority. You said were most important to you. And so how is it that you don't have time for the very thing that you said is the most important thing for you right now? And so if that's you, look at your plate. If your plate is full, and you've probably heard me say this before, the good news is it's your plate. And so you have the power to move things off that plate and to put things on that plate so that you can do. Another reason why people don't do is because they are easily distracted. They are easily sidetracked. And this happens a lot of times when other people come in and they just seem to take over their issues, their problems, their need for you to help them. They just swoop in And all of the time that you had to do the things that you wanted to get moving on is now being consumed with that other person or that other group of people. And I would advise you to take back your time and remove those distractions that don't directly impact your ability to achieve the goals that you have. And then finally, people don't do because in the short term, it can be really inconvenient. Sometimes people don't do because in the short term, it can be really uncomfortable. And let me tell you, human nature, we try to avoid inconvenience and we try to avoid discomfort. But on your way to living out your goals, on your way to living that self-defined success, you will not be able to avoid inconvenience. You will not be able to avoid discomfort. And so looking at these 5 areas, is your goal too big? Have you failed before? You don't have the time? Have you been distracted? Have you been avoiding the inconvenience and the discomfort? Looking at these areas, are there some that resonate with you? Do you see yourself in any of these? And if so, today's the day. Today's the day to set all of that aside and do. Because if it's one thing that I've learned is that success comes in the doing. Success is in the doing. You don't get success by thinking about it. You don't get success by researching it. You don't get success by watching YouTube videos. You don't get success by attending conferences and workshops. You get information from those things, but until you decide to do something with that information, your goals will simply remain out of reach. And it's really challenging when it comes to doing, because when we first start out on something, we may not be very good at it, or we may have to go through some trial and error. We may have to go through some hard lessons. But it's only by exposing yourself to going through that you actually make progress to get to the other side. And I'm telling you, I am not just speaking from theory or research. I am talking to you from personal experience. I know that even when it comes to business, to being an entrepreneur, success comes in the doing. I remember years ago when I first started out, 10 years ago, and there wasn't Facebook and Instagram and all those kinds of things. And I was really trying to figure out, how do I grow my business? How do I get clients? How do I get my message out there? How do I fill my events? And I was just trying to figure it out. And I had gotten coaches and information, and some of the things that I learned was that I needed to do marketing. And at that time, teleseminars was really big, promoting a conference call where you would get people to call in and you teach and share and then tell them about your products and services. And I learned about the launch process, where you share particular bits of content and insights and strategies, and then you invite people to come into a coaching program. And I learned about how to get people to come to live events and show up so that you can share and teach and impact and change their lives. And guess what? When I started doing those things early on, I'm not going to say it was a disaster, but let me tell you, there was a lot of learning in that process. I remember doing teleseminars where there would be maybe 5 people on the line. And I will tell you, my mother, my sister, and my sister-in-law are included in that count. I remember honestly doing teleseminars when nobody showed up. I remember promoting and advertising and sharing information about group coaching programs that one person would sign up for. Now, how is one person a group? How does that work? I remember my first conference, my first Get Radical conference, when I put up my website and I had gotten a couple of people that were going to be speakers at that event. One of them was Valerie Burton, who has been on this podcast. And if you haven't checked that out, you definitely want to go back and listen because it is full of gems. And man, I launched that first conference. I had my website, I had the venue, I had a way for people to register online. Let me tell you, there were not days, not weeks, but there was over a month when like 10 people came to the website when I looked at my stats. Like nobody registered. And in this world of social media where everybody looks like they're hitting it out of the park, sometimes we hesitate to start to do because what if it doesn't work out? But I'm telling you from my own experience that success comes in the doing. And you know what I got from doing teleseminars with 5 people, from launching coaching programs where one person signed up or 3 people signed up, from promoting a conference where for weeks at a time, no one would come to the website, for weeks at a time, no one would register. Oh my gosh, I learned so many lessons. First of all, I taught those teleseminars. Whether 5 people showed up, 3 people showed up, or no people showed up, I taught those teleseminars, and guess what it did? It helped me get more clear about my content and my message. It helped me get sharper at teaching. It helped me get more articulate at speaking. It helped me hone my craft, learn how to design teleseminars for the most engagement, how to teach. Oh my goodness, I learned so much from that. What did I learn from group programs where one person signed up or 3 people signed up? Guess what? I tightened up my curriculum. They got great content and coaching, but I also learned what works inside of my coaching programs, what exercises are best used, how to design curriculum better, how to teach better, the best times to have calls and modules released. Like I learned so much from that process. My conference, man, I learned how to market, how to get my message clearer. I learned how to connect and engage with my community. And so now when we don't have teleseminars anymore, but when I do trainings or lives, oh my goodness, the amount of people that show up. When I have a live event, to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in the room, like that doesn't just happen. You cannot skip over the learning process. Success comes in the doing. And if you aren't willing to do, if you aren't willing to kind of find your way through, to maybe have some setbacks, to maybe not do it quite right, to maybe not have it go as you planned, if you're not willing to do, you're never going to get to the other side of the win. And so when I look back, my pattern has always been to learn how, right, through a coach or at a conference or a workshop, from a book, from a training, how, like I learned the how. This is how you market, how you promote, how you get out of debt, how you lose weight, how you build relationships. And then once I learned, I would do my best to follow the instructions, to follow the strategies, to follow the concepts. And guess what? The first time you do something, it is real wonky a lot of times. I mean, sometimes you might hit it out of the park, but for the most part, it's not always smooth sailing. And nor was it for me. And so I do, and guess what? I'd be like, okay, what worked? What didn't work? What do I need to tweak? What do I need to change? What do I need to adjust? And you know what? I'd go back and I'd try it again. And that is the cycle of doing, to learn, to do, to tweak, and do again. And so what has been your pattern? Have you been learning and then learning and then learning and then learning? Have you been researching and then researching and then researching and then researching? Or maybe you have learned and then you do, but it didn't go like you wanted it to go. You didn't get the results that you were looking for. And so instead of taking those lessons and doing it again, you've moved on to something else. And so maybe your pattern is one and done. Tried that didn't work, gonna try something else. Tried that didn't work, gonna try something else. Tried that didn't work, gonna try something else. When in reality, the things that you've already tried that didn't work, you really want to do those things. But you haven't realized that that is part of the process. That is part of the cycle. That is what every successful person goes through to get to the other side. So I am encouraging you to make today D-Day. Go back to something that you may have given up on because you tried. Go back to that. Pick that thing back up again. Dust it off. Examine it. Look at it. What didn't work? What do I need to tweak? If I try this again, what would I do differently? Because I know that success comes in the doing. Not something that you've done, but something that you do and you continue to do. And so I hope that this conversation has been helpful to you as you really take a step back and think about your process for reaching your goals. And of course, I would love to hear from you. What has been your biggest takeaway from this conversation today? I would love for you to share on Twitter. I am at Doreen Rainey. You can also leave a comment. If you're listening to this on the blog, right down below. I would love to hear your thoughts, your ahas, and your biggest takeaway. And of course, if you have not subscribed to this podcast, make sure you do so. We would love to make sure you know when every episode is released. So thank you once again for tuning in, and I look forward to hearing your comments, your feedback, and your biggest takeaways. And I am hoping that you have decided that today and every day will be D-Day. Until next time, stay radical. Thanks for listening to the Radical Success Podcast. We would love to hear from you. Be sure to head over to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Until next time, stay radical.